my leg. The regular background is bed. So
how's the leg doing?
I'm not in
yeah. How's the leg doing? Are you doing okay, better? Or
yeah, it's getting better. Yeah, I'm going to have a little surgery in about the next 10 days just to take the pins out.
Right. Is it your knee, or was it, what happened?
No, my ankle and my tibia, both sides of my left ankle and my tibia.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
But not that I'm looking forward to having surgery again, but when they take that out, it's going to be a lot more comfortable.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate that.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Laurel Adler, thank you so very much to my show of So Zoom In, where we get to zoom in on you and this incredible film festival that you have going on, the NewsFest with the AOF Megafest. This is your third year, right?
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me okay? I can put buds on.
I can. Can you hear me okay?
A little quiet, but I can turn up my
volume.
Volume. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think it's down because I was trying not to. Oh, yes, it's way down.
First of all, I love that background. Wouldn't it be nice?
Oh, thank you. That is my own. That's a. I have a home in Hawaii, and oh, now I can hear you great.
Okay. Which part of Hawaii?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, you're almost too loud.
So. Where in Hawaii?
You're excited here.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Perfect. Thank you.
I like your glasses, by the way. Those are cool. I like your glasses.
It's like, hello. I'm going to take them off now, but if I have to look at any fine print, I don't think I need to read anything. I'm a big talker.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, so where in Hawaii?
The Big Island.
Okay.
And that's the view from our back patio.
Oh, that's beautiful. Just so peaceful. So nice to look at. Okay, well, all right. So congratulations on this is your third year. I wanted to ask, okay, I love documentaries, and I've noticed that the older I'm getting, the more intrigued I am by them, because like there's more information I want to know. What inspired you to get into to creating documentaries, first of all, and then to start the film fest?
Well, I've always been involved. I was a drama major in school and all of that, but that really didn't have anything to do with it. It's like you prepare and then you do something completely different from, what you thought you were going to do. But I've been a member for a number of years of an international organization, and it's a nonprofit. I've been on their board, and their main goals, one of their main goals is to bring stronger education to developing nations, and getting educational institutions, individual people, governments, and business to all help, villages that are remote and that type of thing. And so I've been a member of that for, gosh, a long time. And so we had I got a connection through that and went out. We were meeting in South Africa, in Durban, for a meeting, but my friend, who was actually worked for Bishop Tutu at one point, and he was on the board, wanted me to come out and visit some people that are in the inland villages, the rural villages. And so I said, would they be willing for me to video them? And he said, I think they would. So I went out there, and it's pretty amazing. South Africa, we hear about apartheid in the old days, and Nelson Mandela came along and everything's fine, except it's not. And so that lesson, and that was entered in the film, in a couple of festivals. But that absolutely changed my goals. That one film and the impact that it had, because we were actually able to raise money, because in a lot of places they don't have any running water, and they have to walk to a river, with bucket on their head or barrel on their head, and then walk all the way back. And so this was a fundraising thing to buy water tanks, and they're water tanks that just catch rainwater with a little spout and a faucet, but it changes people's lives, because a lot of children couldn't go to school because they had to help their moms get water, just water to wash, to eat, all of that. And so when you give the freedom to somebody, just to have water, and they can send their kids to school. I mean, it's that simple. And so the cities, I think, are doing great in South Africa, but the rural areas are still struggling. And that just that's kind of galvanized me. And from there, I've been doing documentaries, and the persons and, these people kind of just fall into my lap in a way. I come across people and they start telling a story, their story. And I go, would you tell it, in front of a camera? And they're all about people, but people who are overcoming some tough circumstances. And I didn't really set out to say that's all I want to do, but it's become that, because I don't film it. I don't start it from the perspective, oh, here's a social issue, but you take the person who's experiencing it and you tell it through them. And then you put the other stuff in, filler. Well, it's not really filler, but data about South Africa. And so a lot of younger people don't even know about apartheid and, and Nelson Mandela. They've never heard of him. And so I did a version for them, but then I realized for a US audience, I needed to put a 3-minute intro as to what this was all about. Like, when South Africa was held under apartheid, people who came and just took over the land. And it was about, the first 2.5 or 3 minutes, but I had to set the scene, because so many people that are in their like 20s and even 30s now, they're not familiar with how horrible it was. So that's the US version. But anyway, that's what got me started.
Oh, well, it sounds very impactful, to have that kind of experience and really, capture it in a story or film and share it. And I would think that really changes a lot of hearts, not only minds, but to really want to try to make a difference.
Yeah. And this made a difference. This film made a difference for them, in that we were able to actually raise money through different donations. And then that money was sent to an NGO in South Africa. And then, that was wired. All the money that was donated was wired, because, you're going around the world. But we managed to get that money over to, and then the lady that is part of that film, she kind of managed that, and in terms of where they go. But she didn't you have to go, each chief in each village, they will decide as a consensus that who needs it the most. And so, because not everybody has it, their first choice was the older citizens of the village. They needed it more because they couldn't walk to get water. And then the next one was women with small children, so that they could, school-aged children, so the kids could go to school. So I think they did an excellent job. They know their community. They know everybody that lives there. Everybody they know. And so they knew who needed those. And so those decisions were made completely locally. Wow. And by the village and the village leaders, and they got it to the people that needed it the most.
That's so beautiful. I mean, something as simple as water, you don't even, living in Los Angeles, you don't even think about it, and we take it for granted, and these people's lives revolve around it. So that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
To create something to really make an impactful difference.
And it changes you. You're like, this is important, that people know this. This is really important. And that's why I love doing documentaries. That you can have an interesting one and an interesting character, but you can tell a story that also needs to be told. And so I did 2 films in China it's a delicate story, let's say, because we know China right now. And so, but they allowed me to do the film and the documentary. There are certain things they're not sensitive about, and there's certain things that they know they need to improve, and they'll admit it. And then there's other things they won't admit. And so I did volunteer to send my interview questions ahead of time. And honestly, I just ask those, and then you just sit back and you let the person talk and talk and talk, and they tell you much more. And then it's an editing job at that, so, but that was interesting. And the topic of that's called The Harder Way. And it's about, they have a very rigid testing system in China, very much like the German system. And you get tested at each level. And then if you don't make the grade, you can't continue to go on in school, unless you get a certain score. And so this movie was about 3 people, one in their 20s, one in his 30s, and one in his 40s. And they had both been bumped off of high school acceptance because they didn't score high enough. And so they went on maybe to some technical schools, or in another case, they just went out and just learned. One guy just started selling noodles on the corner, because you just get entrepreneurial. Well, they're all three of them are now millionaires, despite the Chinese education system that literally threw them away.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That would sound like there'd be an interesting follow-up documentary too. Would they be open to that? Since they are,
they might. It's changed a little bit. That was a couple of years ago. So, it might. Well, with the pandemic, you can't go anywhere. And so it's sort of like, yeah, maybe, you never know. I was supposed to go back to China last April. Well, that didn't happen. Yeah. And I had a couple of contacts there, but we'll just see how the world goes. It's as simple as that. But local stuff can be just as interesting. Local people, and did one for the one I have finished for this year. It's called Paradise Unfound, and that one is about the takeover of the Hawaiian Kingdom.
Oh, that's
perfect. And the dethroning of the Hawaiian Queen. And it was an illegal take. Even the United States admits it was an illegal takeover. But what's happened, what that's done to the culture and the language. And so that's told through the eyes of a gentleman who's a holy man, Hawaiian, he does blessings and he does all that. And he's in his late 70s. So he's lived there through segregated schools. You had to go to a different school if you're a Hawaiian, and you went to a different school if you're Filipino. It's pretty nasty. But of course, now there's still some vestiges just based on income, of course. But it was, and that was done locally, as I say. I mean, it was Hawaii, but in the United States. So.
Is that something that you hope to have done soon, or it's like a?
It's entered in the Megafest, so we'll see.
Oh, wonderful! Okay, great. We'll see. All right, so, but you also look for true stories for your own festival, not only.
Oh yes, that our own festival is called the NewsFest. And that's exactly NEWSFEST, and the news, and the N and the F are capitals. And basically, you don't have to be a professional, because there's a lot of freelance people out there, but it's the only film festival dedicated to the news. Nowhere else can I find one that's dedicated to the news and true stories. And so there's a whole bunch of categories, and also student categories, and docu-series, docu-videos, ranging from a couple of minutes on up to 60. One is a feature length. And these are all true stories, documentary. A couple of them were shown on, like, for example, South Korea, the local public information about certain things that are to warn, and it's kind of interesting to look at what they're warning people about in other countries. But there's some amazing stories. And so we also have category for original music. And so you can't just be playing it, anybody. So you have to write and produce your own music. We have categories for screenplays and other writing. And we have category for film, especially this is during the pandemic, we added, is that a movie made completely with a smartphone.
That's great.
Yeah, because for a lot of people, that's all they've had. And drone, if you did something with a drone or smartphone, that's a whole category there. We added that because of the pandemic.
Smart.
But you can enter, submissions will close on May 31st. So people still have some time. And it's on Film Freeway. So you just go Film Freeway and then the NewsFest. It'll be easy to find if somebody wants to.
Yeah, I have to ask, okay, with so much of this fake news that we hear about, or, fact checkers, so many people say, oh, that's not true. I mean, for everything. Yeah. If someone submits something that they're very passionate about and they believe it to be truth, do they have to worry about someone saying, no, that's not true, or no, that's, do they have?
I haven't, well, there's always a first time.
So much of it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. This is the third year, and I haven't had a single entry like that.
Okay, but this has been an unusual year.
Yeah, it has been an unusual year. we don't want hateful stuff. Let's just say that. And no one has submitted anything hateful. There have been some political ones for sure, but they are generally, those are within the news frame of what you can hear on CNN or whatever like that. And there are quite a few international submissions. And so they're talking about political situations in their own governments and things like that. And that's a little window, about that. So I can't say it'll never happen, but it hasn't happened yet where something is just hateful and you just, can't, you just don't want to show that. It hasn't been. I hope it won't, but we'll meet that when we come to it.
Well, I would think as a filmmaker, when you take something on, you really want to show what you believe is that truth.
Yes.
So I don't think as a documentarian or even a filmmaker goes into it intentionally wanting to be cruel.
No. I haven't come across people like that yet.
Oh, good. All right.
Well, no, I haven't. And that was a great question, and it got me thinking, because I just, whether it's sheer luck or the changing times, and the entries so far this year all have been solid, actual news stories or documentaries, or I also have a category for narrative films that are based on a true story. So I had, if you've made a film, just a regular film, but it's based on a true story, you can submit that. And that's a separate category from, the hardcore journalism, news broadcasting. Those are separated out so that you're not running up against somebody who's, got 20 years in the industry. So, and then students can submit, they can submit either films or screenplays.
And this is open internationally.
Oh, yes. I get a lot of international entries. I've got one from Russia. I've got several from Russia, Turkey, Korea, Australia, Canada, Britain. I've missed a few along the way, but I think Indonesia or Malaysia. I have to go back and look. But and they're all earnest attempts to capture a condition, a situation, a moment. And so, but we work on separating. If you're freelance and you're not professional working in a studio, not going to put you in competition, with ABC News in Arizona, which is what we had last year. We had several from ABC News in Arizona, with all the full, amount of help that you can get that. Not, a big, somebody, a freelancer, I wouldn't mash them up together and have them compete. So we really welcome people that are, starting out, and they really want to start some of getting things on the air. And so the student ones are fun, and some of them are really good. And we don't designate whether you're secondary or a college student.
Okay.
We just don't. That's too much, that's just too much monitoring. If you say you're a student, you're a student. So yeah.
Now, and you screen all the official selections or all of the nominees, or what will you be screening?
We would be screening, well, first of all, you can be accepted. Absolutely. So you've been judged and you get the little notice from Film Freeway, you've been accepted. Okay, later on, probably, I would imagine after the closure, let's see, the deadline's May 31st. And NewsFest is part of Megafest, which is going to be a live event at the last week of July up through August 1st. And so many during the pandemic, so many of these film festivals have gone online or just been canceled. This is live and we're going to go with it. And so, but not everybody can be there. And so one of the things is that if you are going to be in Vegas and you've got people who are bringing, and you want it screened on live, we'll do it. And that's Del West and and Teresa, that. But if, for example, you aren't going to be there, we'll show it online.
Oh,
and you can access it. So, but only those that are actually physically showing up, because you just don't have enough screens, and screening time. And it's anybody who's there at the festival who had a work submitted and accepted, they'll get a screening.
What a great opportunity to see your work on a 60-foot screen. That's how big They are.
exciting. Yeah, yeah. And for a lot of them, that's the first time they've seen it. And, you know, that's exciting to, you know, be sort of on the edge of helping someone define themselves, because, you know, I found my niche and I found it by just experiencing something that was really incredible that I realized most people didn't even know. So, and that got me started. And then started, you know, anybody who talks to me, if I'm interested in what you're saying, a lot of times I'll say, can you say that on camera?
That's wonderful. Okay, so I'm excited about this grand prize of yours. I was reading that the winning piece gets to be aired in Los Angeles.
Yes.
How is that going to work?
Oh, that's going to, well, this will be our third year of doing it. You know, the festival itself was postponed in 2020. Anybody, oh, I'm glad you asked that question. Then I'll explain how we do the TV show. Anybody who, we went ahead and just judged them and said, you've won in this category, because it's just too long. But any of the 2020 people can also have their screening done as well. And so this is our third year. And we televise, the show is called Midnight Shorts. And what it is exactly what the description is. And so if you don't want, then there's some things they have to do. So what we do is we get out the information, and you're a winner. If you want to have it broadcast, you know, there's certain, you know, there's broadcast specs, which we send out. And so, you know, and then you need to respond by this date that you're going to submit, you know, broadcast ready footage, and sometimes it's just, you know, aspect ratio, you know, little things that they can adjust. And then we have to run it through closed caption, of course. And then they're shown those that are shown are shown. Well, 2020 was kind of an abbreviated season. Our first season in 2019, we had 13 episodes, and we this year, because of the pandemic and people couldn't travel in LA, we whittled it down to only 6 episodes. Wow. But hopefully in 2021 we'll have more.
And so. I really think those first few months of the pandemic just really threw everyone for a loop. It's like everyone got blindsided. No one wanted to do anything. You know, just like, okay, what's going on here? But I really feel like these last few months, people have started to pick up that creative flow. You know, get the cameras going, get back, you know, to figure out what they want to do. And
I was rummaging around the attic this morning, and I found one of my tripods, and I go, oh, you know, like homesick.
It's like, get me on the road. Let me be
on the road. But anyway, fortunately, the one I did this year, while it was in the state of Hawaii, it did not require a lot of travel because we couldn't travel. So, but we are allowed to go back and forth to Hawaii. That's not a problem. So I spent part of my time in Hawaii, part of it in LA.
Lucky. Oh my gosh, that sounds so
and that's what it is. I'm not in Hawaii now. I'm in LA, but that's you know, I've got the scenery behind me that I would see if I were sitting outside looking at.
Always the ocean. Like, I want to go. Yeah. But I really feel like documentaries are so important. I mean, it seems like they've really picked up in popularity, you know, because everyone has a story to tell, you know, whatever their perspective is, you know, especially with, you know, all these, you know, we have the, you know, BLM movement, you know, people looking behind the scenes of what's happening. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has a camera on their phone. And it seems like a lot of times they just naturally document stuff, but to take it that step further and really turn it into a narrative to share, to be impactful. I think that's what a lot of people are, you know, looking for. You know,
I think you said an important thing there, because with the technology today, anybody can make a film like that. That's not the point. You know, everybody's got the technology, and there are some people that are really great at the technology, but you still have to have content. And by content, I don't mean just there's a person. It has to be within a context, and you still have to have, I don't script it. I just let it go wherever it goes. And then when I get back in all these hours, a theme emerges. It just emerges. And then, so the context and telling the story about what the conditions and the person, that's the difference between just putting up like, oh, I'll just, the stuff that's up on YouTube and Twitter, and you know what I'm talking about. Everybody's filming bad people. And so that's not what I'm talking about. Do they serve a purpose? Sure, they do. They, you know, caught, you know, people robbing and, you know, all sorts of things. But what a documentary is not that, by my definition.
Right.
It is something that has content and context, not just personality. That's the difference.
Well, it's nice when it has personality in addition to the content too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's I've been able to, yes, I haven't ever interviewed a boring person. Okay. So, I did once and I couldn't use her footage. Like, I'm sorry, but it was sweet, but like, yeah, that's one time. They're anxious to talk. And what was interesting when I was in China and I was interviewing the youngest, you know, he's like probably 27 now, and the youngest millionaire. And he got very, you know, it's one of these things you ask a question and then sit back and just listen. He went on and on and on. He was really great talking about how he sold noodles on the street and, you know, finally was able to do this and that. But in his ease talking to me, he said, you know, because he comes to the United States, well, he's got cousins here. He goes, you know, the United States and China, there's not a whole lot of difference, except you have to be part of the Communist Party here. And I'm going, I don't think I want that, you know. So I left it out of the Mandarin version. I left it out on the one that I gave back, and that was self-editing because I did not want to get that young man in trouble.
Right.
He said something that it was close enough to. It might have hurt him. Let's just say that. And he was just so relaxed. I think he forgot he was talking in front of a camera. And I'm going, wow, that's not a good thing to say.
It's wonderful of you to catch that, you know, and take that, you know, to be responsible like that. Because you're thinking about the people you're working with. You know, that takes a lot. And that goes with the integrity of being a filmmaker. Yeah.
And it does call into that is that, you know, could I have left it in because that was absolutely true and he absolutely said it if I were doing cinema verite, but this was something could get this guy killed and that was different or disappeared in some prison. And so I felt a responsibility, and you know, that is controversial. Should you edit out certain things when people are talking? But I don't think he meant it to say it, and it would have endangered him. And I couldn't risk it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad that, you know, that you made that decision, you know, just to, you know, that's integrity. To me, that's integrity. And I like to think that more integrity is emerging, you know, in filmmaking now than it ever has before. You know,
let's hope so. Yeah. I mean, there always has been,
right?
You know, people that have always had integrity. But there have been people that, you know, exposés that are just, you know, if that's what you do, that's the kind of thing you do, fine. But that's not the kind of thing I do. I'm not out to trip or fool or, you know, embarrass anybody. I just want to hear their life and what they went through. But there's always a social theme through everything. Right. And so I did one movie, the short movie that was called American Who. And this is an old elderly man. He was born in the 1930s. And he was born in Xiamen in southern China. And so he lived through the Japanese invasions. He survived the communist takeover. And then he found himself on a boat. He saved enough money to take a ship to San Francisco. And he had 40 cents and he managed to survive. And then he got a really low paying job and he finally got, and now his family is all here and he has grandchildren. And, but it's fun. He's a funny guy. So he talks about, you know, all sorts of adventures the whole time he was. And I thought, boy, you're braver than me. You know, to just jump on a ship, go somewhere. And he had 42 cents in his pocket. Anyway, but he's loads of fun. But you do see, but it's also historical because, you know, in the lifespan of one human, and he's not 100, he's probably 82 now, but within his lifespan, which is most of the 20th century and into this, he's seen, you know, he has survived. And then starvation was another thing. the bombings and the starvation that came afterward, after the Japanese invasions. And he survived all of that, communist takeover, survived that, didn't get sent to a camp, just, played low profile and got what the heck out of Dodge. And then his adventures are just hilarious, just hilarious.
What a great way to share stories through humor too.
Yeah. And you learn something about the history of China,
which so many people are not aware of, especially since when you hear that, Chinese are rewriting history books to change the narrative for the current generation.
Yes.
So it's just so important to be able to capture those stories and share them, so other people.
They happened and people experienced them. And some people didn't survive. This gentleman was very lucky to survive all the way over on, he wasn't a stowaway, but he was way down. If you ever saw Titanic, the people that are in the really, really bottom with just bunk beds and stuff like that, that's kind of like where he was on the ship. And so, but he didn't care, he had a little tiny bed. It was like wedged in like that. And he says, that's fine with me. And anyway, it's just, it's great history that, again, Americans don't know about. I think we need to have history improved a little bit in the schools. I don't think they teach enough history, not just US history, about the world, because everything in the world impacts us in this country, whether we think it doesn't or not. But you get a little history of that, the 20th century in China, pretty much. And, but it's funny too. So that's a great combination.
Can we see your documentaries anywhere?
Beg your pardon?
We see your documentaries anywhere right now? Are they?
Yeah, I'm in the process. Everybody's in the process, and I have, my little accident falling off. I don't mind if your viewers hear this. I'm falling off a mountain and breaking my leg kind of slowed me down, but I'm setting up, a channel through Vimeo for all of them, and plus others. And so,
right,
I had to
check out your website later on to follow up on that, or.
Yeah, there's, it's not on the website yet, so no, but I'm going to give you the website for the NewsFest.
Okay.
And then maybe by the time we get around to the festival, I have my thing up and running. Running is funny because that's the one thing I cannot do right now is running. So the website is thenewsfest.com.
Okay.
That's real easy. And then on that website is a link to Film Freeway. Or you can go straight to Film Freeway.
So what is the absolute latest deadline someone can submit to you? Okay, you said
May 31.
That's the absolute last deadline. Okay. All right, so people have, just over a month, about 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's plenty of time.
Okay, this year is going by so fast. What's going on? Yeah.
Honestly, you don't even know sometimes, like, what day is it? What month is it? It's just one long cloudy day for the last year.
Yeah. Now you will be in Vegas for the festival.
Oh, I will be in Vegas. Absolutely.
So if someone wanted to come up to you and meet you, because I know a lot of filmmakers can be very shy, is there a certain approach that's okay? Or, do you
someone coming up to me?
Yes.
Just do it.
Submitted. Good.
Doesn't matter, just do it, right? I collect business cards, whatever. And, and I always get some submissions from people who were at the festival and then realize, oh, that's something that maybe I'd like to submit to. So I'm very open to talking to absolutely anyone and everyone there. And the good news is I'll have my leg out of a cast.
Right.
The good news, I should be out of my little brace by the head, because that's still more than 6 weeks. Well, no, July is the festival, so that's yeah.
You'll be good by then. You'll be jogging. You'll be running.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not going to climb mountains anytime soon.
Okay, well, I love
if ever again.
Okay, can I ask what happened? Because I love mountain climbing myself. I haven't done it in a long time, but did you hit something that kind of like jumped out at you type thing? Or?
Oh, I was with a friend of mine, and we were hiking straight up to a place called Devil's Gate Reservoir. Anyway, that doesn't really matter, but it's a trail that goes kind of straight up, and that's breezy. Oh no, that's easy going up, because if you fall forward, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Then you might get a little dusty, but you're not going to have the same. If you fall off the trail, you can go down, 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 down. What I did is when we were coming down, because there's been a drought, as you know, everywhere, there was some loose, either dirt and some loose pebbles, and I slipped and went about 20 feet.
Oh, wow.
And it could have been worse. I could, if that, and a rock broke my fall, but it also broke my leg. So it saved my life probably, but it did mess up that leg pretty well. But it's getting a lot better. It's really getting a lot better. So you'll see me.
I'm still not stopping you. You still have this great energy of doing readings. That's what counts. I mean,
it's not like it's not like the good ankle and leg yet, you can tell. And I'll probably have, I've got interesting designs on my foot from all the sutures and everything, but it's fine.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm just looking forward to, to having a live festival again. That's just a biggie, because you cannot network on Zoom the way you can just walk up to somebody and just say, and talk. You just can't.
And people from around the world can show up. I know
they do. I know we have a filmmaker from India, and she will definitely be there to screen her films. Yeah, I know for a fact she will be. So
I agree. It does make a huge difference. And then you have the awards dinner. You'll be having one for the shorts and for the features. Now and then we'll have another awards dinner for screenplays. Oh, okay. All right. Now, will you be having the 2020 and the 2021 together or separate?
Kind of a combo. The screenings for the 2020 people, they will be, if they're going to be in Vegas, and she does have, she had 2020 submissions too. I'm talking about the lady from India who will be there. Absolutely. They will be screened as if they are this year's, but they've already gotten their awards. But if they come to the festival, they got a digital award, and so if they're going to come to the festival, they'll get a little nicer one. and so, but we already awarded the ones that were within that slot of 2020 when we all had to shut down. And so, but they get all the right to be there, have their film screened and everything like that. And I think that what they're going to be doing is there'll be a certain block of time in a specific theater where it will be 2020 screenings only. Okay. And so, and then the 2021, I know that they're going to have at least the 3 dinners. That's kind of evolving a little bit, but they'll have awards for short, and they'll have awards for feature, and awards for writers. And so I know those are just in solid. Right. Very exciting. Well, I know I'll be there, and I look forward to seeing you there. And I think what you're doing is incredible, because documentaries are so important, and even true stories, people taking the time to really put together something that's based on the truth that they know. That's really important too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I really look forward to it. So thank you very much for your time, Laurel. I really appreciate it. Really a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Well, of course. I mean, is there anything that you'd like to throw out to any of the viewers? What I would like you to do is to go to my website and watch, and then connect to Film Freeway. And if you even have something that's 60 seconds long, I'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it. There are so many categories. I just named the basic ones, but within all, it's like docu-news, there's that big category, but we divide them like under 10 minutes, 10 to 30 minutes, because a 5-minute can't compete with a 30 or 40 minute. It just, so you get your little corner to where there's somewhat equal competition. So I don't, even if somebody has a short, or they a trailer, and you haven't made the film yet, but you want to submit a trailer, absolutely. Oh, great. So we have category for that too. Lots of options. And I think what's so great is that it just takes being that one person to change your career. Just submit something like this, you show up, you meet someone, and it can just change everything. Yes. So, but that's what life does to us. And it comes along a lot, and all you have to do is stop and look. A lot of people just don't pay attention. People just go past them. They don't talk in depth to people enough to really understand, wow, there's an interesting story. This is things that people should know about. And it's almost like archiving in some way.
It is.
archiving certain pieces of history.
And that is important.
Yes, it is, especially with, a lot of stuff that absolutely, is either hateful or just not true. Archiving actual true history, like China, or, or what went on in South Africa after Mandela and everything like that. But those are important pieces of history, even if people don't know it. We as a civilization need to have a better understanding of things and what happened in the past, because the past, like, it still influences what we do now. And so, yeah, I would just say, if you're a student, a freelancer, you're just starting out, or if you're a professional, there's a category on there, and don't feel at all hesitant. I think the shortest entry is 30 seconds to a minute.
30 seconds. I would be curious. Well, you figure commercials are 30 seconds. So
they are 30 to 90 seconds typically.
Get a lot of information in 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can.
So I look forward to seeing your show. I'm very excited.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Very excited.
Go to that website.
Right. Yes. And I will definitely post the links below. And thank you so very much for your time, and prayers for your ankle to get better. We want to see.
Oh, it will. Yeah, it's getting better every day. It's just, every day's a new day. You're like, that wasn't like that.
Right.
That's just the mending process.
Right. Well, it gives you time to focus on other things too while you're right up. So, I mean, always an opportunity for something, right?
Something. I briefly thought about documenting my own accident, and then I'm thinking, I don't know about that. I have a lot of photos, but it's not a documentary. It could be a public service warning.
Right. Oh, that's great. Well,
yeah.
Thank you so very much. All right. Well, I look forward to talking with you in July.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in July. It's exciting. We're going live, and please submit. You have till May 31st, and don't think it's too short or too, you're too much of a beginner. Don't worry about that.
Well, everyone has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. And we're a pretty kind group. So we're, if you're going to start somewhere, you can start with us, and, we'll give you some pointers, but we're never nasty to anybody. So nobody should feel as if my stuff won't be good enough, or I'm just starting. Like, well, you learn by, screening and submitting, you're building your skills. And so don't let you short sight yourself into thinking this isn't good enough. You don't know that. You have no perspective.
Right. Yeah. And so do you give feedback as to people's work? Is that something that they can get?
Yes, they can. Most of the time I give it informally to them, basically because it's just for their own purpose. And so it's just to help. And I think it's more impactful when you just talk to, that's why I'm so glad of the live event. And if you talk to the person, and there are some advice I can give that will increase their acceptance rate.
Okay. So that's fine. Okay. And all right. And I have to say, even if for whatever reason someone does not get accepted, for whatever reason, and they're very passionate about it, they can still go.
Yes, absolutely.
Meet with you. So there's, don't let anything stop you. Just
don't feel like you're not good enough yet. I mean, a lot of people do stop. I'd be embarrassed. I'm like, don't.
Right.
Because we won't take advantage and make you feel bad. Maybe it'll get accepted, maybe it won't, but you will never be embarrassed, and you won't, that was a brave thing to do. And so we'll acknowledge your bravery at the very least.
Yeah. Well, the whole Megafest seems so supportive of everybody, which
it really is.
And it does become that family sense where you support each other.
Right. So. Exactly. That's very unusual in a highly competitive cutthroat kind of industry, is to have a group that is actually supportive and feels like any success, I'm happy for you and you're happy for me. It's generally not the trend.
Right. Well, we make new trends, right?
Absolutely. Kindness is a nice trend to have.
I like that one. Well, Laurel, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in July. People submit, check out the website, thenewsfest.com, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. And there's a link to Film Freeway. There's something for you. Just got to do it.
You bet.
Right. All right.
Don't hesitate.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right.
Mwah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.